In 2024, the world created more billionaires than ever before. But something strange was happening underneath the headlines. While millions of people were fighting rising prices, expensive housing, and stagnant wages, a small group was quietly gaining ownership of the future. Not through luck, not through a sudden lottery, but through a shift that has been building for decades. A transfer of wealth so large that some economists believe it could reshape who controls the global economy. The question is, who is receiving this wealth? And who is unknowingly giving it away? Over the next few minutes, we'll uncover the hidden forces behind the largest movement of wealth in modern history. You'll see how aging generations, technology, financial markets, government policies, and changing ownership patterns are creating a historic shift. But this story is not simply about rich people getting richer. Because the biggest surprise is this: the wealth transfer has already started, and the people who understand the system may benefit from it, while those who ignore it may spend decades trying to catch up. Fortune nobody is talking about. In the early 2000s, something unusual began happening in the global economy. Asset prices started climbing faster than ordinary incomes. Homes became more expensive. Stocks reached record highs. Companies built enormous valuations.
At first, it looked like a normal market cycle, but slowly, a pattern appeared. People who already owned assets were watching their wealth multiply. People who depended mostly on salaries were falling further behind. A homeowner who bought a house decades ago suddenly owned an asset worth hundreds of thousands more. Meanwhile, a younger worker entering the market faced higher prices, larger debts, and fewer opportunities. The same economy was creating two completely different realities. One group owned pieces of the system. The other group paid to participate in it. And this created the foundation for the wealth transfer that is now accelerating. For decades, the largest generation in American history accumulated enormous amounts of wealth: the baby boomers. They bought homes when prices were far lower. They invested during some of the biggest market expansions in history. They built businesses. They collected retirement accounts. By the 2020s, this generation controlled a massive portion of household wealth. But then, something inevitable happened. Time moved forward, and the largest transfer of assets in history became unavoidable. Over the next several decades, trillions of dollars are expected to move from older generations to younger ones. Homes, investment accounts, businesses, land, entire companies built over lifetimes. On paper, this sounds like a massive opportunity. But there is a hidden problem. Because wealth is not transferred equally. It depends on one thing:
whether you are already connected to ownership. A person inheriting $1 million home starts with an advantage that is almost impossible to replicate through wages alone. A person starting with nothing enters a completely different race. And this creates the first major question. If the biggest wealth transfer in history is happening, why do so many people feel like they are getting poorer? The ownership divide. For most of human history, wealth came from one simple idea: own something valuable. Land, businesses, factories, resources. But in the modern economy, that principle became even more powerful because ownership began producing wealth faster than labor. Consider two people. One works a regular job and saves part of every paycheck. The other owns shares in companies that grow over time. Both work hard. Both contribute. But the results can be dramatically different. Because the owner benefits from growth. The worker usually benefits only from income. This difference became clearer after major economic changes transformed the world. Technology companies created enormous fortunes. Global investment markets expanded. Financial systems made it easier for people with capital to multiply it.
But at the same time, many workers experienced something different. Their wages increased slowly. Their living costs increased quickly. Housing, education, and healthcare became major financial pressures. The result was a growing gap between
Earning money and owning wealth. One of the biggest examples is housing. A generation ago, buying a home was considered a normal milestone for many middle-class families. Today, for millions of younger Americans, home ownership feels increasingly distant. Not because people stopped working, but because the price of entering the ownership system moved faster than their ability to earn. And this reveals something important. The wealth transfer is not only about inheritance. It is about control. Who owns the assets that shape the future? Because the next economy will reward ownership more than ever before. But there is another force quietly changing the entire game.